Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn McEntee, and I'd like to welcome you to Spotlight on Youth Matters because you matter. And we're here to discuss a variety of topics for community. I want to do a shout out to Youth for Change Canada for allowing us to be here. We wouldn't be here without them. And so thank you to Youth for Change Canada. Before we get started, I'll do a land acknowledgement to thank for being here on our virtual platform today. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all the lands that we're on today. While we today meet on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. So thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you to Youth for Change Canada for shining light on our wonderful guests that we have today. We'll introduce you to them in a moment. Again, my name is Lynn McEntee, and I just wanted to mention what Youth for Change Canada is all about. Youth for Change has a vision to provide marginalized youth the opportunity to live in wholesome, successful, and enriching lives through engaging dynamic programs while stimulating positive change in our community. Our mission for Youth for Change is to improve the quality of life for youth by enriching them with learning activities that are sustainable and networking, team building, skill sets, character building, mind and body balance, as well as communication skills that fosters personal, team, and community strengths via strong mentorship opportunities. So thank you to Youth for Change Canada for allowing us to be here. I'm going to get started. We've got some amazing guests here today. We have currently 3 representatives from Horizons for Youth, and they can tell you a little bit more about what they offer, their services. We also have Nicole Finn, who is part of the youth guest panel. So I'd like to do the introduction for Angela Spadafora. Angela is the Development and Communications Manager for Horizons for Youth, and she'll be with us for a little bit this morning, and wanted to thank you for being here with your colleagues as well. We have Michael Swalwell, who is the Shelter Supervisor Manager, and Dwight Miller, who is the Operations Manager for Horizons for Youth. And I wondered if you can just take a moment to introduce yourself briefly, and then we can kind of launch into the conversation. Angela, do you mind if I start with you, because you may have to leave a little bit? Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah, for sure. So Angela, if you could tell us about Horizons for Youth briefly from your perspective, from your capacity, and then I'll jump over to Michael and then Dwight, because Michael may have to pop out at some point as well.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm the Development and Communications Manager at Horizons for Youth. We are a youth shelter for at-risk and homeless youth ages 16 to 24. And we offer a variety of programming, which Michael and Dwight can further attest to, and the amazing work that we do at the shelter.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you. And thank you for standing by, Dwight, while we say hello to Michael in case he does need to pop out. Appreciate that. All right, Michael, take it away and introduce yourself, please, and thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Michael Swalwell. I'm the Shelter Supervisor here at Horizons. And I'm in the shelter today working, and Dwight will fill you in on all the programs and what we offer here at the Horizons.
Amazing. Thank you. And good morning to all. Really appreciate that. And Dwight, if you have a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background in terms of the work that you do, we'll see where we go from there.
Sure. Thank you so much. So again, my name is Dwight Miller. I'm the Operations Manager at Horizons for Youth. I've been there for a number of years now. And we, as Angela mentioned, we service and house youth between the ages of 16 to 24. And our youth are coming from everywhere. We've got youth that are aging out from the Children's Aid Society. We have youth that are just walking up to our door, knocking on the door, looking for beds. Some youth that are being released from correctional institutions, court ordered sometimes, and also youth, they're having a parent-teen conflict breakdown at home and needing a safe place to go. In the last few years, we've seen a lot of newcomers entering the country and straight from the airport coming to Horizons for Youth. So we offer a variety of programs. Initially an intake program, just where we do an assessment to see what their needs are, obviously meeting their immediate needs, which would be hygiene products, a bed to stay in, a warm place to be in, clothing if possible, if needed, coats, jackets, things like that. We get a lot of help from donations to cover those things. But then we have youth that are coming in with more complex issues. Some of our youth may be entering the shelter simply for the fact that they're on their own and they can't afford room and board plus tuition if they're in school. So they find refuge at the shelter, obviously. As I said, a lot of other youth are escaping precarious situations and things like that, so they come to our shelter. We offer case management at our site, so youth that are coming in will meet up with a case manager and work one-on-one with that caseworker to sort of set goals for themselves and some type of way to move on to something better than the shelter. Work on some independence or semi-independence from our site. We have a day program that operates as well, so it's sort of our in-house school. It's a basic education, life skills programs, and communication programs. So a lot of things that are taking place in there, just kind of reinforcing what some youth know about living independently, and others are teaching them some pretty basic things. Some of our youth need assistance, maybe something as simple as brushing their teeth. We can assist them with that, but then others are working on budgeting, healthy cooking, landlord-tenant relations, and things like that. And that sort of leaks into another program we have, and that's our housing program, where our housing worker will ensure that each youth that is in there in our shelter has a housing program and a housing plan to move on from the shelter. And that might mean completely independent living when they move on their own. However, they might also need assistance, maybe moving into an adult group home or something like that, or a basement apartment, living in a house with somebody else. And most recently, we've moved towards kinship. And that means getting youth connected with some sort of family, whatever that may look like, just so they have a bit of a basis to move on when they leave the shelter. And that goes into another program we have, which is our community support worker. And that community support worker works with youth who have sort of graduated from our shelter and they've moved on. But we still act as a liaison for them in between maybe themselves and their landlord, should there be any issues or conflict. We invite them back to the shelter for like a Sunday meal. They have access to our laundry facilities for free and an emergency food bank in case they're struggling in any way, shape, or form that way. And lastly, which might be most important, we also have a mental health and wellness program. So any youth that is really coming into our shelter, we realize it is quite traumatic. And they are, walking into a place with a bunch of strangers, and we're unaware of what they may have experienced prior to coming to the shelter, because most youth would be probably anywhere else than being in our shelter or a shelter, So we come in and we try to make sure that they're all assessed. They all have an opportunity to meet with our mental health and wellness person, whether they're struggling with their own wellness, addictions, whatever it may be, relations. And then we also have them partner with our psychiatrist as well, who's with our site every other week. And they work with our mental health and wellness team just to ensure that we're kind of, making sure that there's complete wellness for each one of our youth that are at our site. And sorry, I speak a lot though.
Oh my, Dwight, I absolutely love that. It's so thorough, and it's really important for our listeners and viewers, anybody tuning in, to get sort of a picture of that right away. So thank you for taking the time to do that. It's awesome. I feel that your knowledge is really needed. So thank you so much for that. Do you mind if I ask whoever can answer this, whether it be you, Dwight, or Angela, or Michael, how long the program has been around? And you are targeting ages 16 to 24? Is that right? Or is it a little broader than that?
No, it's 16 to 24.
Okay.
However, we have a number of community support clients, the ones who sort of graduated, and they still stay in touch with us, even though our services typically are officially supposed to end at 24. We've got some 26, 28-year-olds that still contact with us and call us for advice, checking in. If they've moved on and they've begun a family of their own, they connect with us, and we are that connection for them afterwards. A lot of programs that operate, shelter programs especially, and for this age group, they tend to, when a youth sort of leaves the shelter, that's sort of it for the relationship. And we realize how important it is to make sure that each youth has a foundation and a way back in case they stumble or fall, and then we want to make sure that we're providing that for them. So I'm sorry if I answered the question. We do work with youth between the ages of 16 to 24.
Wow.
I was just going to add something, if I could, to what Dwight was saying. What I found amazing for me working at the shelter is hearing the community support workers and listening to them. Things that we take for granted, like having a family member or a friend to say, don't forget to fill your prescriptions, or did you pay your rent, or have you eaten lunch today? Those things, and I've heard that firsthand, and that that connection to somebody is so important, I feel, for anybody, for any human being. And it's just, you know, it's about dignity and respect. And I feel that that's what our program offers.
Wow, dignity and respect, and 100% for sure. And everybody's coming to the table with a story, right? And so it's important to be mindful of that, and sort of map out a plan accordingly, right? That's interesting. Michael, did you want to jump in on anything there before I double back on some of the other issues there that we were talking
I think
about?
I was just sort of reflecting while I was listening to Dwight speak, and one of the things when I was hired here, they spoke about how it has a feeling of family within the shelter. And you can really see that with the staff and the residents that are here. It's not just a shelter. It's more of a feeling of a family where, when we're out and dealing with the youth, we're talking with them and we're seeing them daily, and they're here in the building. They're not kicked out at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're here doing their programs. So you start to develop these therapeutic relationships with them. And I think that's really helpful with what we're doing here.
No, thank you, all three. And the program has been around for how long, just out of curiosity?
Sure. Our doors opened in 1994.
1994. Wow, amazing. Then do you mind if I ask, before we jump into sort of the more personal connection, I guess, in terms of the programming, funding, and where would that come from? Is that on a provincial level? Is it could you speak to more about that for maybe someone who's not aware? Anybody want to take that one?
Yes, I can take that. We do receive grants. We apply for several grants. Some are government grants. Right now, the Ontario Trillium Foundation is a big. We are a big receiver of grants from them, and as well as we have amazing donors in the community. This was my first holiday, my first Christmas at the shelter, working with the shelter, and just the outpouring of support that we received for our residents. It blew my mind.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. I appreciate it. I've worked in the mental health field as well myself, and also the education field, and the medical field, and I so value the relationships. It's cultivating those relationships in the community is so important, whether it be on a monetary basis or whichever, a mentorship basis. All of those things are so key and so important.
Absolutely.
To bridging our youth into the future. Nicole, did you want to jump in with something before I sort of open up into a few more things here? Just want to make sure I'm being mindful of you participating there.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I do have a couple of questions. Is there any information that shows a specific group of youth that have a higher level of homelessness?
It's a good question, actually. Yeah.
It was a great question. I think the majority of our youth, and I mean, it's fluctuating from time to time, it seems like, because historically, the majority of our youth were coming from the Children's Aid Society, and from the state, meaning that, and they were there simply because they were aging out. And I mean, in the past, there was something called extended care and maintenance, but you'd had to be in school. And a lot of our youth were, typically were struggling with that area. So they were sort of aged out of the CS and then, finding themselves into the homeless setting and youth shelters. Most recently, we are seeing a huge increase in the number of newcomer youth that are coming to the shelter and, fleeing countries for humanitarian reasons or student visas and things like that, and things are breaking down. So those are probably the two largest groups that we're seeing coming into our shelter over the last maybe 5 or 6 years now.
Is that good, Nicole? Yeah. So a variety of reasons why people come to the shelter, and displaced for many different reasons. I wondered if you could underscore some of those for us. You mentioned newcomers as one, and certainly I've worked with newcomers and survivors of trauma, fleeing countries, that we were speaking about. But there are a variety of reasons. It's ongoing housing instability, relationships with parents.
Absolutely.
Mental health.
Mental health, and I mean a big one with this age group. It seems to be the area or the age group where we're starting to see onset and psychosis with a lot of them. Some of the families or the parents don't understand what's going on. They believe that sometimes it's behavioral and not really well informed about it. And then you have some challenges culturally where, you know, mental health is not talked about and or acknowledged. And so we see a lot of youth coming in those types of situations. And just, you're seeing youth that have had some instability prior to that, and they might be couch surfing and things like that. So it's a lot of a mixture of things that are going on with youth right now, especially. And then recently with COVID, a lot of youth have been expressing a lot of challenges with their own mental wellness overall. So those are some of the, I guess, mitigating factors as to bring a lot of youth into the shelter system.
As far as ethnoculturally, as far as in reaching the families of some of the youth that come into the shelter and for new beginnings, how does that work in terms of the relationship building, providing materials of knowledge, I guess, in second language learning, or etc. I wonder if you could maybe speak to that just a little bit.
Any youth that comes in, number one, we need their consent before we can speak to anyone else at all. We hope to, foster, good relations and communications with the family. And in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, with kinship, we are trying to make sure there's some sort of a base, whether that youth is there's complete reunification with the family, where they might go back to live with the family or not. We want to make sure there's a base, so there's a friend, an aunt, or an uncle, or someone that they can connect with when they've exited the shelter and things like that. So once we do have consent from the youth, we try to work completely with the family in terms of mending fences, building bridges, and ensuring that the communication is there and there's a better understanding. We do offer education to the parents and also to the youth. And just because typically in the past you'd have a youth come into care or into the shelter system, you're doing a lot of work with them, but no work is being done on the other side, and then they're returning to that same environment, which is not beneficial for anyone. So we do try to work with both sides, but again, it's dependent on the circumstances. One of the reasons I didn't mention before is abuse. Where a lot of our youth have been physically, sexually, emotionally abused by family members and are escaping those types of situations. So it has a lot to do with the consent we have from the youth and respecting them and making sure that their wishes are being met.
No, absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much for underscoring that. Nicole, did you want to jump in? No, I think I'll just be one moment there. So just out of curiosity, this is just, for myself, but also anyone who's maybe not aware. So then if youth are having that opportunity, do they get a chance to honor their culture? I think that would be very necessary as far as in, the bridge moving forward. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, please, Michael or Angela, jump in if you'd like. Sorry. After me, but no, absolutely. That's one of the big things in terms of our wraparound. When a youth is in our shelter, say they were attending a church or a mosque prior to that, we do try to reconnect them with that community. We encourage it, and we make allowances and exceptions for them to go, even if it's overnight, to attend certain functions at that point, just so we can kind of make sure that, again, that base is there and that their own beliefs and heritage is being honored. Every day of the month we have days of significance, and it's not that we necessarily celebrate everyone's uniqueness, but we do acknowledge it. And it is an icebreaker and a talking point at the very least in our day program on a daily basis, just so everyone feels a little bit more included and inclusive.
And being seen and heard, right? Yeah, for sure. As you had said, the inclusion. Wow, no, that's amazing. That's because certainly in the past, all of us are probably aware that wasn't always the case, right? In some of the programming that we been a part of ourselves, right? So that's at the core of Horizons for Youth. Got it. Thank you. Nicole, did you want to jump in with a question or a comment at all? I just want to make sure you're getting an opportunity.
Yes, yeah, I have many. So how does Horizons for Youth encourage the development of the youth that come off the streets?
Yeah. So how do they encourage the development of the youth coming off the streets? Got it.
So again, great question, Nicole.
Yeah.
Each one of our youth, as I said, is matched up with a case manager. And then we look at their own individual goals. We operate from a strength-based perspective. So it's not our goals, it's their goals and what they want to see for themselves moving forward. And we support them fully in that, whatever it may be, and as much as we can. If there's something that we cannot manage internally, we do outsource and use different resources and partners in the community to help the youth flourish. I mean, some youth, have an artistic background, or they want to volunteer or something. They want to be a veterinarian. So we help them to volunteer at a pet shop to start off, just to see if, how that's working for them. Yeah, just, if it's sports related, if it's school, they want to get back into school, employment, whatever it is, it's their goals. And we work with them to try and support them to achieve those goals.
Okay. Does that work, Nicole? Thank you. What about relationships with friends prior to coming in? Sometimes it's a conversation that youth don't always want to talk about, the need to access a resource such as Horizons for Youth. So does that marginalize them? Or do they get an opportunity to include friends in their bridge moving forward?
Again, I think it's dependent on the youth. Again, their confidentiality. We cannot, speak to anyone outside of the shelter unless we have their permission. They let us know if they have friends, partners, whatever it is that they'd like to communicate with and be in touch with. We encourage that. We try to work with them to establish positive relationships outside of the shelter as well. But again, that's totally up to them. Yeah. Marginalized, absolutely. Our youth, I did a presentation at a school, and some of the teachers were asking, well, how do I know what a homeless youth looks like? And and the answer was, and I said, like anyone else, you never know. They could be in your class and you wouldn't know that. It's not something you want to share, not something they're proud of. And so they move around sometimes understanding that, when other people are going home, either for lunch or for dinner and things like that, or whatever, they're going back to a shelter. And so it's not something that they share regularly, but it's just being treated openly and honestly and with respect in all times.
As far as community partners then, and supporting the youth, could you maybe speak to that a little bit about what type of community partners that you have in terms of enabling options for youth?
Right. We work with employment programs like the YES program, Youth Employment Services. We work with Across Boundaries, which is an accredited mental health agency for youth of color. We work with CAMH, CTYS, which is again 2 mental health agencies that really and hospitals that really help foster care for our youth. We work with the City of Toronto. We work with Friends of Ruby to address any of our youth that are dealing with LGBTQ and how others are perceiving them and working with them, just so they are better understood as well. And we as an agency are better understanding and more accommodating to everyone that's coming in. We work with Simon Woolner for harm reduction as well for our clients. And, just any program we can find that might be, beneficial for the youth. We work with bridging programs to colleges and universities and high schools just to try and, again, help youth move forward. And just, we work with a lot of local churches and faith-based groups that often donate food to our shelter, offer programming as well, and not just the food, but also offer, personal hygiene items and things like that for these, just anything basic that anyone would need. Those groups are always offering to help and provide that for our youth.
Yeah. Michael or Dwight, how did you get into this work? What was your passion? What was your drive? Either or.
Well, I can speak to my passion and my drive. I am a registered social worker, and I like working with youth. And the bottom line is, I just want to help people that are homeless.
Yeah.
And working in a shelter is the perfect place to be. You want to help people that really have nothing and they're on the streets, and being able to work on the front lines in the shelter, I feel that I'm able to fulfill what I want to do in life, to help people that don't have a lot.
Yeah. Fills your cup of gratitude. Yeah. Yeah. For that human connection, right? That, wow. Thank you, Michael. Dwight, what about yourself? How did you pursue this avenue?
It was a little by accident. I was playing football and I was injured, and I saw a position for a youth care worker, and I went to apply, and I started working with young children. And I have two sisters that are teachers, and I never wanted to work with children. I never thought I did. But entering that first group home and seeing the eyes of some of these children and the role that I was able to play in their lives really transformed me, I think, as a person. And I grew up in this field, and it's changed me, I think, in my perspective, my understanding, my tolerance, my respect for others. And so, entering this field, I was looking, to head out as quickly as possible. But all these years later, I've never been able to take that step out of this field. And I am extremely passionate about working with and for individuals that are at risk and are in need of assistance, and for someone to help to serve them. And that's why I do this.
For both Dwight and Michael, beautifully shared. So I appreciate that very much. And that human connection is so deep, isn't it? Right. And I know it's the affirmation of truly why we're all here, right? To enable each other and lift each other up in our communities, right? That's beautiful, actually, what you have both shared. Thank you for that. Nicole, did you want to jump in with a thought or question, something?
Yeah, I do. Where I live, in a small town, a rural town, are there things that our community could offer to assist youth?
Who would like to take that one?
You are really throwing these questions here. Mike, please don't let me dominate it. If you would like to answer, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, sorry, the question was, it was, what can we offer? Like, what can we offer to youth to help them? And you're in a small rural community, was that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I think just inclusion, including youth into whatever is happening in your community could be very helpful for them. Now, are we talking about homeless youth in your community, or just youth in general in your community?
To make sure that the people are included. That's
to
what
make
I'm
sure that
getting at.
people are included.
Yes.
I mean, it's always good to just reach out and make sure that people feel like they're included. Dwight, I'm not sure I'm answering this question properly. Maybe you can jump in.
It's okay. I'm feeling the same way, but I think Nicole, I guess along the lines of Michael's mentioning, is just maybe through education and understanding, communication, so people are aware that there are these issues, that there are people that could be at risk of being homeless, and youth especially. A homeless youth's situation is unique and different than an adult person who maybe has grown up either in or out of the system and maybe lost their housing for some reason. But a youth that hasn't been able to even get on their feet yet is a very unique type of situation as well. And in terms of a small community or any community, look for an organization or an agency that you could support, that will add to the education of others. Once you go in and you volunteer, or you put on a third-party event for an organization or something like that, you learn more about it, you learn more about the cause and about the individuals that are being served and helped in those areas.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for
That's
the
awesome.
question.
And thank you, both Michael and Dwight. And Dwight, thank you for finishing that up. Nicole, do you want to share a little bit about your background, what you bring to the table in terms of the conversation?
Okay, I am an advocate for the inclusion of people who have an intellectual disability. I have a photography business. And I do public presentations. My website is nicoleflynn.ca. And I work with people.
Thank you, Nicole. So you're a consultant. I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit in terms of this conversation today, right? Nicole consults with business on.
Yes.
Take it away, Nicole.
I think what Lynn is going with that is that I have a position in a people-minded business as an associate consultant. And we have this study of risk, like riskology, and we are like working creatively, thinking out of the box and bringing everybody to the table and talk and be included and being creative.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because you, Nicole, is sort of anti-institutionalization, right? That's sort of a big thing for you, and totally appreciate that. And I think all of us here at the in the conversation today would appreciate that as well. And I wondered if you could speak to that and honoring just a person when they're in that in the facility. And how to, and I know we maybe have talked about this prior too, but how to just keep them moving forward, pushing forward, honoring who they are, what they've brought to the table with their experiences and such, but being mindful of them moving on. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, that what you just mentioned is the core of our program. It is an individual. We are strength-based. We realize how resilient they really are. So we try to capitalize on those strengths for them. Our staff members are acting as guides or mentors along their journey. You know, and we do encourage them daily. You know, some of our core programs, meaning, you know, anytime a youth enters our shelter, everything they're doing is a life skill lesson that we're working with them to help them move forward and to help them navigate the real world when they exit the shelter. The same time, understanding who they are as a person, what their personal journey is, and how we can support that with them. So it is as you said, it's a delicate balance in terms of you know, a youth coming in and still knowing that they've got to move forward. That this is a transitional phase or piece in their life, staying at our shelter with them, you know, enhancing or strengthening them as individuals and preparing them for independence or semi-independence as they move on. And when I say independence, it's a bit of a challenging thing to say because nobody is truly independent, and you need the supports when you move out there. So we try to make sure that they're fostering positive relationships, partnerships. Again, the kinship is so important for them, as any of us would need moving forward, and we just try to foster that at the shelter with them. The person as an individual, and help them to be the best person they can by stepping back and allowing them to flourish, but still reminding them with that little bit of a push, saying, hey, as you said, this is what the shelter can offer you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how cool is that, the enabling of that and shining light on another and unraveling the opportunity for someone to push forward with their own abilities, right? It's empowering for even a team, you know, working together within the shelter itself, right? Very profound, actually. Right?
We as staff have to be very careful. You know, some of us that are uber passionate about this, that, you know, we're not getting too deep and not getting more out of it than what we're giving, you know, because it's very fulfilling work, but we can't get lost and realize that it's their journey and not ours. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. No, for sure. That's beautifully said. Nicole, I see you nodding. You were thinking of adding something in there?
Yes. Another question. there are people who have a disability who have chosen to live on the street rather than an institution. Does Horizons for Youth work to assist a person who has a disability, avoiding having to choose homelessness over life in an institution?
Absolutely. And your questions are, they're blowing me away. Absolutely. And they're fantastic. Absolutely. And as I said, any way that we can facilitate any type of success or measure of dignity and standard of living for anyone is what we try to operate. Our community support worker, is typically for youth that have been in our shelter and are moving out on their own and wherever they're going. So if we don't have the resource ourselves, then we partner with another agency with that youth, and any direction they'd like to go to, we try to assist as much as possible, respecting their choices, reminding everyone to try and be as safe as possible, and putting themselves in the best situation for success. But definitely we do that, and we still work with individuals that maybe haven't even graduated. Anyone that calls in, we are also, offering services and assistance as much as possible through resources, directing them to different programs that may be not as institutionalized as some others, just in order to direct them and put them in the right direction.
Well, thank you.
Wondered if you could speak to some of the success stories and underscore some of the avenues that some of our youth may have taken that you're able to share publicly.
Sure. We have a young man right now that was with us for a few months years ago and had no place to go. Obviously, it's a shelter, and he said he was at his lowest point in his life. He was a newcomer and really, really struggling. He said that coming to Horizons gave him a place that he could get back on his feet, have some dignity and respect, allowed him to find himself and work hard. And today he now owns his own barbershop and hair salon. And he gives back. He's come to a few of our events as a guest speaker. He gives back by offering free haircuts to the youth at the shelter.
Wow.
And it's really, really powerful, to see this. He's come back and spoken about the benefits of the shelter, but not just for himself, but he comes back to mentor other youth and then offer free haircuts. And, a haircut for anyone, even myself, can be quite therapeutic as you're sitting in the chair there and having that done and sharing. And he shares a story. Prior to the pandemic, before his shop was over, he was coming to the shelter with some of his barbers to on site to cut their hair. And what a transformation that is, not just physically, but emotionally for a person, a youth that comes in and sees himself differently, with a new hairdo, haircut, whatever it is, and just start feeling better about themselves. So, that's just one of them. We've got others that have moved on, as I said, and had family members. Some of them have joined our board of directors as well, and just wanting to give back, and really, just seeing it sort of play forward. Somebody has done something for you and been there for you, and you now want to give back. And it's just, it's a wonderful thing to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's what I'm gathering. It's a real circle of life, right? That's going on within Horizons for Youth. Right, that's really cool. This is just a sort of an off thing, but is there anybody who's sort of pursued the arts, who had an opportunity to pursue the arts through, finding their path, I guess, through enabling, through Horizons for Youth? Has there been any sort of mentorship linkages for someone pursuing the arts or other fields as well?
Yes, there's again another young man that we had who was extremely artistic, and we had an art program that has just resumed right now. It was on hiatus because of COVID, has just resumed, but this young man was in that art program, and our art instructor really saw the talent this person had, and this person went on to do graphic design and has actually started their own magazine and puts it on it. But it's also geared towards homeless and at-risk youth within the community. you know, and you know, so much success that he's also taken on placement students from colleges and things like that. So really an impressive individual, worked hard and saw his passion and dream, you know, realized within the shelter system, and then has taken that and run with it.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. I also do work in the arts as well, and I see the light. Again, everyone finding their voice, right, and giving them an opportunity and creating their own opportunities in many ways, right? But the skills are ridiculous that people come to the table with. It's just a matter of, you know, finding a chance to pursue, right? As far as I was going to say male, female, how different is that from a female coming to the shelter or a male?
It's a bit of a challenging question, especially in today's world.
Yeah.
You know, but with, you know, typically what we saw was there were more males entering the shelter system, because typically or historically it just seemed like females were more apt to take advantage of the services of what were offered to them.
Mm-hmm.
Where males were, you know, not really wanting to do that, you know, not really acknowledging or talking about it, would sort of scoff at some of the services that would have helped them or prevented them from ending up on the streets, expressing their feelings or emotions, you know, or even asking for help. So, I mean, right now we still have sort of a 60-40 split where there's more males and females within the shelter system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think typically there are more males at risk or utilizing the shelter beds right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. As far as in programming for both male and female, is there an interaction between the two? Is that intentional? If so? Yeah.
We've always been a shelter for males and females and anyone who identifies on either way. So our program is geared towards that. There was a young men's group and a young women's group before. We outsource and partner with young mothers or individuals who are you know, pregnant and experiencing that and prepping for that parenthood. Also with the males as well, just trying to help them understand their roles as parents and as fathers as well. But a lot of it is pretty basic in terms of life skills for everyone and the life skills that anyone would need moving forward to be successful out in the community as well.
Yeah. Would there be like a TAPS program that you're referring to? TAPS. I used to do a TAPS program for young mothers, very similar to that through the community health, etc. But it was just that life skills, you know, and then getting ready to take it on in the community.
Absolutely. Yes.
No, that's cool. That's Michael, did you want to jump in with sort of adding into the conversation? I can jump over to Cole with a question, but want to give you an opportunity.
I just wanted to circle back to something that we spoke about right at the beginning, about when you're a little bit of talk around culture and diversity.
Yeah.
And here at the shelter, we have an area at bulletin board and whatnot where we do put up a lot of resources and services on that bulletin board for the youth to go and look at, that includes different cultures and diversity, so there's something for them to look at and to read and to seek out. We also have in our day program, there's a lot of diversity in different cultures that are highlighted within our day program as well. And I just wanted to mention that. I know we spoke about it at the beginning, but I wanted to just make sure that, you know, it's out there that we do this as well.
Michael, do you want to speak about our committee as a staff team?
I'm sorry?
Our committee as a staff team we have? Versus
we've created the diversity and equity and inclusion committee.
Oh, nice.
You know, one of the great things that we have here at Horizons for Youth is the staff. There is such a diversity and different cultures and whatnot with just the staff alone here, that this committee that we've created to bring all these different people together to share our experiences and our cultures and our diversities. We think that we can really learn something from that, and that would help us with all the different diversities that we see in the youth come into the shelter. And it's something that that we're working on right now. It's exciting, and people that have come to me to talk to me about joining this committee.
Oh, wow.
You know, one of the things they talk about is all the different types of food they want to bring.
Yeah, it's the first thing I was thinking of.
Yeah, food's a great thing. It's a great way to start to learn about another person's culture.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to just expand on that and have our youth involved in it, and just to make everyone feel included within our home here.
That's key. And so the optics of that is, as an organization, that when someone's coming in or viewing it from afar, if you will, they see that that's a concerted effort by the organization, and that's key. In our world today, it's very important. It always has been, but people are underscoring it more so, right? In order to reach as many people in the community. No, I totally love that. That's it's so necessary, and there's nothing like bridging people together through shared culture, shared experiences, shared food, etc. It's enabling and uplifting and validating, is it not? Yeah, for sure.
And just with the staff, and on any given day here, when you look at all the staff that are on, we have such a diverse staff. That when a resident comes to live here, they don't, they may feel more included because they can see like we're so diverse.
Would this be an opportunity to ask about literature in different languages? Is there an opportunity? I know that can be daunting at times to provide literature in many different languages. However, is there a base, if you will, set of languages that you're able to provide translation in?
Not a specific one at our shelter, but there are resources that we have through the city that will work with any, with the youth in any language that's out there. And the list is unbelievable, the amount that's there. But as Michael mentioned, our staff team is so diverse that we've got staff that are speaking Spanish to some youth, being an interpreter right there for us, meeting it right off the bat. We've got youth staff from different regions, different areas that can broach those areas for us on a more immediate basis than others would right away. And then for the other ones, we do go out and outsource and just work with the City of Toronto through translation services, and Google Translate's always very helpful as well.
Big time, yeah, for sure.
And also just speaking to what Dwight just said, I ran a program last week on current affairs, and we had a Spanish-speaking youth in that program, and then we had one of our staff members that translated, and it was perfect. And he participated a great deal in this program we ran, and we were able to use our staff member to translate everything back and forth, questions from other youth to him, and back and forth. It was fantastic to be able to have that.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. It's such a great feeling to be in that space together. Yeah, that's super cool. Even, we think about signing, for example, that's an opportunity right there. And just out of curiosity, has anybody come through the shelter where you, either had to access services for low vision and or, hearing impaired?
Yeah, it hasn't been something that's been extremely frequent, but we have had that before. And again, we've had to access some of the services offered by the City of Toronto. And able to work with those individuals, but yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So we have about another 5-ish minutes, 5-10 minutes. I wondered, Nicole, you had a couple of more questions that we had talked about before, and I wondered if you want to ask a few now or just one of them, perhaps.
I do just one. I just want to say that as an African, I can relate to being uber passionate. How do you handle this on a daily basis?
The uber passion. That's not taking it home with you, I guess, is hard to not do.
I am taking it home just so I can share it.
Yeah.
Is the question, I guess, how do we deal with individuals that are very passionate
Yes. No. You're passionate.
Oh, my passion.
Well, yeah, you're passionate, meaning like attending your self-care.
My self-care. I see. Yeah. Well, I'm I have a family that keeps me very grounded and very busy outside of work. So when I've had to practice this over a number of years, but when I'm at work, I give 110%. And when I'm out of work, I stop and I shut down so that I'm able to recharge and do that the next time I come in or the next time I'm signing into work. So I give it my all when I'm there. And when I stop, I actually stop.
That's good. That's real good.
Thank you. Michael?
Well, myself, I spend a lot of time, I joke with my colleagues about how I end up in forests up north. And I do, and that's one of the things that I like to do. I like to go into a forest, York Region Forest up in north of Stouffville area, and just kind of get lost in nature, just walking in the trees and, that's how I deal with my own wellness. And, it's great just to lay in the snow and look up and watch the wind blow for half an hour.
Oh.
That kind of thing.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's similar to what I do.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's very nice.
I have a big mixture of forest as my backyard, and I just every time I look over there, I just want to be on the snow now.
That's right.
Staying in the snow and being grounded by all the trees and every other sound, natural sounds.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's definitely a good way to manage our own wellness, is to be out in nature. Spend a lot of time over on the Toronto Islands. I have family, my children that I spend time with. And I guess I make model boats. I make model ships as a hobby. That's how I deal with.
Wow, that's very minute. That's hard to, yeah, absolutely. A lot of patience required.
Yeah.
That and people who accomplish puzzles. Then maybe, do you mind if I ask just about the youth in terms of outings? Is there an opportunity for them to be at one with nature in this and the programming, or if somebody else is able to mentor or take someone under their wing, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these youth, or a lot of them typically were not had any opportunities going outside and doing those kind of things. And we've had some fantastic funders that have come through for us and allowed us to go on a camping trip annually up to Algonquin Park.
Oh my goodness.
And so the youth were going there, and they were on the canoes and camping, and some of them have never done anything like that before. Michael is very excited for that to resume this year with the youth and things like that. But it's transformative. You see some kids that are, and you see the real youth at that point come out, the real person come out, and understand the therapeutic value in that. The tension is gone. The facade is sort of, stripped away with some of the youth, and it's a wonderful time to be up there with them and to just see that and to really appreciate what it is to be outdoors and to just take it in and be one with nature in a sense. So yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. I do truly appreciate you taking time for us today. And I wondered if you wanted to just underscore a few things about Horizons for Youth before we say goodbye to our listeners and viewers, perhaps how they can reach out to you, and maybe anything else, final points that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I just, Horizons for Youth is a very unique place. As I said, I stumbled into the field. My background, I studied law, worked in the education system, sort of playing football and things, and never imagined that I would be in this field. But to realize, especially for me, to work with youth and young people, the potential, the promise, has really drawn me into this field to a point where I, as I said, I thought to myself, I'm just going to get out of this and go back and do what I do. And this is what I do now. And I'm proud of it. And Horizons, my first day stepping into that place, I said, these youth are a little bit older than the ones I'm used to working with. And I don't think there's anything I can do here to offer. And I was right. There wasn't anything I could offer. I had a lot to learn. And they taught me so much and still continue to do that. And I am at times in awe with their resiliency, their stories, and how they ended up at the shelter, but then even how they exit the shelter. Really am taken aback with just where these individuals are coming from and how strong they really are and how resilient they are. And honored to just be a part of their lives at this time when they are transforming and transitioning, to adulthood and to independence as well. So Horizons is a place that really fosters that. As Michael said, it is a home for so many youth. We are known for our programming, our approach with our youth, and our relationship and rapport building. We're not the largest shelter out there at all, but that is what we are known for, and I'm very proud to be a part of that at Horizons for Youth.
Wow.
Talk a lot, so I'm going to stop. Sorry.
Wow. Dwight, thank you. Michael, did you want to jump in? And
I guess just in closing, on any given night in Toronto, there's upwards of 1,500 to 2,000 homeless youth, and at Horizons for Youth, we're able to help. We're able to help a little with that, and for that, I'm grateful, and to be here helping with this serious problem that our city faces.
And Nicole, before we wrap up with Michael and Dwight, is there something that you would like to insert before we wrap up?
Yes, actually I do.
Okay.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. I see many similarities with the work that I do, like increasing the voice of people, including everyone, and respecting and encouraging our differences. Thank you for sharing today.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
Then I may ask words of wisdom, Dwight, before we sign off. Words of wisdom moving forward, and then Michael, you stand by.
Michael, you want to go first, sir?
Words of wisdom. To let Dwight answer that question.
I think, thank you, Arch. I think I will just piggyback on what Nicole just said, and just, all of us to just be very inclusive, very aware, never leaving anyone behind, never leaving anyone behind, and understanding that, where we are is a privilege and a gift, and let's use that responsibly.
Amazing. That's awesome. And if someone wanted to reach out to Horizons for Youth, how would they do that?
On our website,
oh, that's okay. So Horizons for Youth on the website?
And on our website, you can contact the staff. You can look at our resources, our programs. Oh, sorry. It might be that. But yeah, just to reach out and just become better educated with the plight of homeless youth, and knowing that it's different than the adult sector. Not that we're trying to make a distinction for any political gains, but just understand that the youth are still growing, learning, and have such a opportunity still ahead of them, and we don't want to diminish that or forget about that as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And as you said, we're all about our authentic self and community building and youth matters at the heart for Spotlight and Youth Matters. And we do want to thank Youth for Change for allowing us to be here. Please be sure to follow us on social media. And if you have an idea for a program, please let us know, and we'd be happy to make that happen for you if possible. My name is Lynn McEntee, and I've been your humble host to be a part of this conversation today. raising awareness for myself, but also the community. And I want to thank our guests for being here today from Horizons for Youth and also Nicole Flynn. Please reach out to our guests on social media and or the website if you have any further questions. And we are so thankful for you being here today. 1,000 thank yous.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.